1. Introduction. RFK. The United States government was on track in the Biden administration to reduce the prices for both clean energy heat pumps and clean energy electric cars. Trump tariffs are expected to upset those plans to prevent future air pollution and prevent climate change. The United States government should, instead of certifying wood stoves as safe when they are not safe, go forward with regulations that ban wood stove use and direct government money for use of forest refuse only. For home building and furniture building. For just a few examples of use of forest products for non-burning uses, it is well known from scientific and medical research that wood burning is a substantial source of PM 2.5 emissions, yet the wood burning industry uses the scientifically debunked theory named carbon neutrality of wood burning to argue that wood burning replacing coal burning in industry, and in a trickle-down argument that wood burning should continue for home heating should continue. Presumably because it is called renewable. Wood may be renewable in the sense that a tree can be planted in the place of a cut-down burned tree, but it takes centuries or decades for the newly planted tree to attain the stature of the cut-down burned tree. During those centuries or decades, photosynthesis, which converts CO2 to oxygen and so sequesters some carbon, will not take place at the same rate as photosynthesis was performed previously, and wood burning emits both CO2 and PM 2.5, and PM 2.5 is not absorbed by trees, so PM 2.5 is not diminished by planting a tree in the place of a cut-down and burned tree. In fact, a living tree closes its pores against the presence of PM 2.5 from nearby wood burning, just as humans hold their breath in the presence of PM 2.5 from nearby wood burning. And when a tree closes its pores, the level of photosynthesis that absorbs CO2 pollution goes down. Wood burning emits 90% PM 2.5 particulate matter of 2.5 micrometer size, the perfect size to infiltrate the human lungs, setting off a cascade of human health problems and early deaths. Contrary to many beliefs, wood burning emits 2.8 times the PM 2.5 as the fossil fuel coal burning, and wood burning emits 450 times the PM 2.5 as the fossil fuel natural gas burning. Replacing coal burning with wood burning creates more air pollution in the form of CO2 and PM 2.5 than coal burning. This emission data comes from testing the cleanest burning wood stove in the United Kingdom, the eco-design wood stove, and international convention does not count the emissions from wood burning. The emissions from wood burning are erased from all countries around the world when calculating if each country has met its climate goals. This non-counting or erasure of wood burning emissions data from climate goals does not mean wood burning emissions do not exist. RFK. Purple air PM 2.5 monitors hanging from the eaves of the house of a near neighbor should be used to measure the level of PM 2.5 in the air hyperlocally in the yards of near neighbors of indoor residential wood burners. If PM 2.5 levels exceed World Health Organization standards of 5 micrograms per cubic meter annually, then that evidence of air pollution from wood burning should lead to the shutdown of that indoor residential wood burning appliance, one appliance at a time if necessary.
Hi, my name is Lily. Andrew gave you the intro to residents against wood smoke emission particulates and their concern for air pollution from indoor residential wood burning. Residents against wood smoke emission particulates, or ROSEP, would like every near neighbor of an indoor residential wood burner whose wood smoke enters their yards and sickens the near neighbors to have a purple air PM 2.5 monitor hanging from the eaves of their home to measure the level of PM 2.5 entering their yards. That measurement of air pollution should be used as evidence of unnecessary air pollution, and each indoor residential wood burner should be shut down based on that evidence, one indoor residential wood burner at a time if necessary. The presentation by Andrew ended at 2 minutes 5 seconds. The same presentation by Emma starts at 2 minutes 3 seconds before the end of this podcast. So I am Lily, your timekeeper, and you can start the next podcast at 2 minutes 5 seconds in if you would not like to see the presentation by Andrew a second time. This presentation by me, Lily, ends at 5 minutes in. What you will see in the main content of this ROSEP podcast will be news about air pollution from indoor residential wood burning and how that air pollution is being combated by ordinary people just like you who are unfortunately near neighbors of indoor residential wood burners at this time. There will also be news about unnecessary and highly polluting use of wood as fuel in industrial wood burners and preventable air pollution from wood burning wildfires. There will also be news about air pollution from PM 2.5 from gas-powered cars. There will also be news about airborne diseases which are also preventable with vaccines such as COVID-19 and measles and whooping cough, to name just a few. In 2025, residents against wood smoke emission particulates is also concerned with combating the Trump destruction of government funding for programs which protect human health through the Department of Health and Human Services, and Trump destruction of programs which fund the science and medical research plan to protect human health from preventable illnesses. Protecting human health is a patriotic act, and our defense against enemies is weakened if we are not as healthy as we can be. Heat pump rebates are now offered by the federal government, distributed through the eligible United States, are available in 2025 and are the best, cleanest, and now cheapest alternative to indoor residential wood burning if that burning is actually done to purportedly save money. Wind and solar as sources of the electricity that powers heat pumps and electric cars is also cheaper than burning wood. The adverse health effects that are caused by indoor residential wood burning also come at a cost to near neighbors, both in shortening and ending their lives and in actual hospital, clinic, and funeral costs. Instead of being compensated monetarily, near neighbors should instead be able to achieve immediate relief by stopping indoor residential wood burning in their hyper-localized neighborhoods, which relief readings from purple air PM 2.5 monitors used as evidence of air pollution will help them achieve. Welcome to news about hopeful scientific and medical achievements that will also help us achieve the goal of clean air to breathe.
Webisode 57DGXWQ August 20th, 2025 RFK Jr. visited CDC 3 days after shooting after decades verbally attacking CDC. In episode 57DGXWQ, Georgia CDC staffers voice frustration over the Kennedy anti-vaccine rhetoric. 2 Georgia RFK Junior visits CDC 3 days after shooting following decades verbally attacking the agency himself, plus the latest from the general campaign against U.S. public health from within. 3 Georgia and other states. The Environmental Protection Agency, EPA, moves to cancel $7 billion in grants for solar energy. 4A solar energy. In Germany, lurches forward balcony. Solar lurches forward in the U.S. 4B Trump cracks down on bird deaths, but only from wind turbines. 5 air conditioning becomes political in France. 6 headlines. 7 Google alerts main content. 1 Georgia CDC staffers voice frustration over the Kennedy anti-vaccine rhetoric. The health secretary visited the CDC Atlanta headquarters Monday. After the shooting last week, new details emerge about CDC shooting suspect. Excerpts edited by Rozep for brevity and clarity in relationship to residents against wood smoke emission particulate of 501c3 nonprofit organization. NBC News. August 11th, 2025 Centers for Disease Control and Prevention staffers are voicing frustration over the health secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr. past vaccine comments following the Friday shooting at the CDC headquarters in Atlanta that left 1 police officer dead. Although the motive of the suspected shooter, Patrick White, 30, from Kennesaw, Georgia, remains unknown, he told a neighbor that he believed the COVID vaccines had made him sick. A source told NBC News on the condition of anonymity. Kennedy visited the CDC headquarters earlier Monday, where security led him through campus, pointing out shattered windows across multiple buildings. According to statement from the Department of Health and Human Services, later Kennedy met with the widow of the killed police officer. Employees were instructed to work remotely this week. A virtual-only all-staff meeting is scheduled for Tuesday. Although it is not clear if Kennedy will be in attendance, the shooting took place near the campuses of both the CDC, which includes an on-campus day care center and Emory University. For some employees, the shooting highlighted growing hostility toward public health officials, which they feel has been shaped by the Kennedy long history of spreading vaccine misinformation, including the COVID vaccine. In 2021, Kennedy filed a petition of citizens requesting that the Food and Drug Administration revoke the authorization of the COVID vaccines. The same year, he described the COVID shot as the deadliest vaccine ever made. Just last week, Kennedy terminated 22 contracts focused on developing mRNA vaccines, the same technology used to develop the Pfizer and the Moderna COVID shots. In an announcement on X, Kennedy claimed mRNA technology poses more risks than benefits for these respiratory viruses. Kennedy has not yet spoken publicly about vaccine misinformation that may have contributed to the shooting. Numerous studies have shown that the COVID vaccines are safe and effective. Dr. Peter Chin-Hong, infectious disease specialist at the University of California, San Francisco, said the COVID vaccine has become an easy scapegoat, a symbol of all the losses the pandemic inflicted on people, including loss of life, physical and mental health, and personal freedoms. Even before the shooting at the CDC, there were multiple threats against Dr. Anthony Fauci, the former director of the National Institute of Allergy and Infectious Diseases and other public health experts. Chin-Hong said he received multiple threatening emails a day at the peak of the pandemic. These days, he gets emails full of hate about once a week. Usually he reads the first line and then deletes them. Still, he feels personally unsafe often because he gives public talks about vaccines. He said as a public health expert, he thinks of that as a duty. The CDC shooting heightened those fears. The CDC incident really makes me feel more personally at risk, he said. In employee group chat, staffers are also voicing frustration with Kennedy. People feel like this is a natural progression when you spend years denigrating science and public health, spread misinformation about vaccines, and publicly attack federal workers, said one CDC employee who was granted anonymity for fear of repercussions. An employee at the Department of Health and Human Services, which oversees the CDC, said it is not lost on them that Kennedy has demonized our work. 2 Georgia RFK Jr. visits CDC 3 days after shooting following decades verbally attacking the agency himself, plus the latest from the general campaign against U.S. public health from within. Excerpts edited by Rozep for brevity and clarity in relationship to residents against wood smoke emission particulate of 501c3 nonprofit organization by Jeremy Faust, MD, Inside Medicine newsletter. August 12th, 2025. Thanks as always to my CDC colleagues for speaking out, especially during this time. RFK Jr. visits CDC after an attack many staffers felt his rhetoric provoked. HHS Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr. visited the CDC yesterday, 3 days after a gunman fired at least 180 bullets at the CDC headquarters in Atlanta. One CDC employee told Inside Medicine that she was angry about the visit. This man has been verbally attacking and sowing seeds of distrust against CDC and CDC employees for 2 decades, she said. Kennedy has long attacked the CDC, verbally linking it to fascism and referring to the agency as a cesspool of corruption. None of this made him the most welcome of visitors to the CDC headquarters yesterday. Even the timing of the optics were not a hit. He tweeted about his fishing vacation in Alaska on Friday and Saturday before he made any statement about the attack, and then showed up today with a bunch of bodyguards. And on a day most staff were teleworking to Torrent active crime scene, she added that was not an isolated sentiment. Another employee had not even realized that Kennedy had visited. When I reached out for comment, is that a joke? There was no one there. Another CDC employee said the building is riddled with bullet holes and everyone is working from home outside the agency. Public health experts saw the Friday attack as an unsurprising but terrible escalation that requires a change in rhetoric from both Kennedy and his allies. In a New York Times essay, Dr. Celine Gounder wrote about the attack, saying the symbolism could not be clearer. Scientists, doctors, public health officials, and law enforcement officials, people whose work of their lives is to protect the nation, have targets on their backs. The CDC union has asked federal officials to condemn vaccine misinformation since it is putting lives at risk. Last month, a major study out of Denmark published in the Annals of Internal Medicine found no associations between aluminum in vaccines and any increased risks for autoimmune, atopic, or allergic or neurodevelopmental disorders. That includes autism. Kennedy Jr. could have said nothing, but that is not who he is. So naturally, Secretary Kennedy, the expert that he is, LOL, chimed in on X Twitter attacking the study. This on its face is an astonishing Escalation of misinformation coming from our government. Kennedy started by saying the paper was published by a pharma-funded medical journal. Talk about desperate, since the paper was not itself pharma-funded, but rather conducted by a team of government scientists in Denmark. Kennedy had no choice but to go for guilt by association. The Kennedy call for the paper to be retracted. See above under. Astonishing escalation was rejected by the journal. It will be fascinating to see if Director Menarez stands up against future nonsense that ACIP puts on her desk, including blaming aluminum or other stuff for all manner of pediatric medical conditions. So this may be the next big test for her. In fact, because any disagreements on vaccines could put her at odds with Secretary Kennedy, it might be the biggie. 2 other public health science stories. I am also following 2 quick stories worth tracking. The Government Accountability Office found that the Trump NIH grant cuts done summarily and without adequate notice or explanation violated federal law. The president cannot just halt funding that Congress previously approved. Per J.gov. The agency is often called the Congressional Watchdog, an independent nonpartisan agency that works for Congress for now. That is, meanwhile, Congress seems poised to reject the Trump proposal for deep cuts in NIH grant funding in the next appropriations bill. If the proposed cuts are cut, it will be an important victory for science, but that will not be the end of it. Last week, Trump issued an executive order saying that grants must reflect his priorities. That leaves open the question of whether actual science will routinely continue in the United States. 3. Georgia and other states. The Environmental Protection Agency, EPA, moves to cancel $7 billion in grants for solar energy. If finalized, the move would escalate the Trump efforts to claw back billions of dollars in climate grants awarded under President Biden. The Solar for All program was designed to help low and moderate income homeowners install solar panels, and also to expand community solar initiatives. Excerpts edited by Rozep for brevity and clarity in relationship to residents against wood smoke emission particulates. A 501c3 nonprofit organization. The New York Times, August 5, 2025. The chief executive of Groundswell, a nonprofit group that received a roughly $156 million grant, said revoking the award would undermine the Trump claims of an energy emergency. This country needs all of the electrons that it can get. Ms. Moore said this country is short on power. If you want natural gas, the combined cycle natural gas turbines are backlogged out 5 to 7 years. The other grant recipients include several state agencies and nonprofit groups in Republican-led states, including the Georgia Bright Communities Coalition, the South Carolina Office of Resilience, and the Tennessee Department of Environment and Conservation. On Monday, the Georgia Bright Communities Coalition opened an initiative to provide free rooftop solar panels to about 800 Georgia households using roughly $156 million from a Solar for All grant. The group said qualifying households that earned 80% of the median income of the area would be randomly selected in raffles for a fully prepaid solar lease that would reduce their monthly electric bills by as much as 70%. 4. Solar energy in Germany. Lurches forward. Balcony solar lurches forward in the U.S. Excerpts edited by Rozep for brevity and clarity in relationship to residents against wood smoke emission particulates. A 501c3 nonprofit organization. The New York Times, August 12, 2025. Across Germany, more than 1 million people had installed solar panels on their balconies as of last month. But those are just the officially registered systems. The actual figures could be 3 times as high according to government estimates. Though each installation is small, the aggregate electricity generated from these plug-in solar panels is helping Germany reach its renewable energy targets. Is the U.S. next? It is complicated. Plug-in solar, also known as balcony solar, refers to small-scale solar systems that can be installed without an electrician or without permission from a local utility. It is certainly closer to taking off in the U.S. than it was 6 months ago. Solar backers hope more hurdles will be cleared before the year is out. This is happening largely thanks to a small but committed assortment of policymakers and solar power supporters who are working to make it more accessible. There are 2 main barriers. First, there are local utility rules, many of which limit what residents can install without permission, and some would-be customers are waiting for the release of a key safety standard from an independent testing company. The early adopters. Victoria Augustine, an environmental activist and resident of Queens in New York City, was one of the first buyers of a Flex 200 plug-in panel system released earlier this summer by Bright Saver, a nonprofit group based in California that promotes balcony solar. On August 1st, she zip-tied the panel onto a wrought iron fence on her porch. She plugged it into an outlet, making sure it was not sharing the circuit with any other appliances. The whole process took less than an hour, including a trip to the hardware store for extra zip ties. There was no visit from an electrician or approvals from her local utility. A Bright Saver employee helped her set up a phone app on to track the output of the system, and that was it. The panels were generating electricity, albeit just a little. When the sun is shining, the 200-watt system will be able to offset roughly enough electricity to power a small appliance. The Flex 200 could save Augustine an estimated $37 to $50 per year in electricity costs. Bright Saver, a nonprofit group, began selling the Flex 200 for $399 this summer in the first run of a few dozen systems. Sold out within a week, said Cora Stryker, its co-founder. The Flex 200 maxes out at about a quarter of the electricity that balcony systems in Germany can produce. That is by design. The founders wanted to release a product that could be used anywhere in the United States without needing permission from the authorities. The product of Bright Saver is not designed to send electricity back to the grid, and it is not large enough to trigger local utility rules. What we are trying to do is demonstrate the demand. The organization is working with state lawmakers to allow more powerful plug-in solar systems. Hopefully a year or 2 from now, we will not be talking about these 200-watt systems. Utah moves first. Utah legislators eliminated one of the biggest hurdles in Utah for plug-in solar this year when they passed a law exempting certain home solar systems from requirements that they enter into interconnection agreements with local utilities to send small amounts of electricity back to the grid. Some larger plug-in systems are already being sold in the state. EcoFlow, which has a presence in Germany, has begun selling its Stream systems to Utah residents, including panels. They retail for about $2,000, but Raymond Ward, the Republican state legislator who introduced the plug-in solar bill, still has not added panels to his own home. That is because his own bill says plug-in systems must be certified by a nationally recognized safety testing agency. Right now, Ward says companies selling panels are operating in a little bit of a gray area. The missing piece the gray area Ward referenced has to do with a safety standard from the independent testing company Underwriters Laboratories. UL certification appears on household items like hair dryers, light bulbs, and refrigerators. Underwriters Laboratories has not issued a specific safety standard for plug-in solar systems. Individual solar components like inverters are already certified under an existing standard. Some safety advocates argue that a whole product standard, not just one that applies to its components, is necessary before plug-in solar systems hit the market. Representative Ward said he thought people outside of Utah might start buying and installing plug-in solar systems once the UL standard was published, regardless of state regulations. That is just a guess, but that is what happened in Europe. He said he wanted to give his wife a plug-in system for Christmas, and that he hoped the products would be out of the gray area by then. 4B Trump cracks down on bird deaths, but only from wind turbines. Bald eagles must be protected to the fullest extent of the law from dangerous wind turbines, the Trump Interior Secretary declared this week. But 4 months ago, President Trump called for gutting the very law that applies the Bald and Golden Eagle Protection Act, calling it a burden on oil and gas producers. Trump administration officials insisted there was no conflict between the two positions and said the president was consistently enforcing laws for all forms of energy development. Conservationists said the Trump embrace of the iconic bird of America was just a pretext for attacking the wind industry, which the president has publicly seethed about ever since he lost a legal battle to stop a wind farm from being built in view of one of his Scottish golf courses. 5 Air conditioning becomes political in France. A tug of war over air conditioning in France. Excerpts edited by Rozep for brevity and clarity in relationship to residents against with smoke emission particulates. A 501c3 nonprofit organization. The New York Times, August 12, 2025. The culture wars have come for air conditioning, at least in France. In July, as a heat wave broiled much of Europe, feelings about air conditioning suddenly became a political litmus test. Marine Le Pen, the far-right leader in France, declared that she would deploy a major air conditioning equipment plan around the country if her nationalist party eventually came to power. Marine Tondelier, the head of the Green Party of France, scoffed at the Le Pen idea and instead suggested solutions to warming temperatures that included greening cities and making buildings more energy efficient. In France, only an estimated 20 to 25% of households are equipped with air conditioning, according to the Agency for Ecological Transition in France. 6 headlines. The New York Times, August 10, 2025. Air pollution from wood burning at Burning Man. Traditional parental approval for marriage. Rozep view what she thinks is traditional wood burning at Burning Man, but is just unnecessary and ugly and not artistic. Air pollution from the article headline for a marriage announcement. She made a list. The ancestors confirmed. The New York Times, Arizona. Can the Arizona 99-cent iced tea survive the Trump tariffs? The New York Times, artificial intelligence computer science grads struggle to find jobs in the AI age. The New York Times, California redistricting Trump attacked the California redistricting system. Republicans want to save it. The New York Times, climate change. Environmental leader laments loss of bipartisanship on climate issues. The New York Times, Democrats union leaders get tough with Democrats as members drift toward Trump. The New York Times, North Carolina, Jeff Jackson, Attorney General, Democrats the secret to one swing state. Rise of a Democrat wonky TikTok videos. The New York Times, Georgia, what we know about the CDC shooting in Atlanta. The New York Times, Georgia CDC workers say shooting manifests worst fears about anger among public. The New York Times, housing down payment assistance is a growing tool for home buyers. The New York Times, Iowa, Democrats, Arizona Senator Ruben Gallego brings a message of hope for Democrats to Iowa. The New York Times, long-range planning opinion, thinking a lot too about little thinking. The New York Times, RFK Junior, Lyme disease spread 7 ticks, hitched very long, rides to Connecticut. The New York Times, RFK Junior, Trump real, housewives opinion, will Maha change America? The New York Times, Trump age like historical 1890s. Gilded Age opinion, Donald Trump. Julian Fellows and the Gilded Age finale. The New York Times, Trump court in election cases. Supreme Court keeps removing guardrails. The New York Times, Trump economy opinion. Trump is a totem for wealth. What happens if the economy crashes? The New York Times, Trump is destroying the future of America to own the libs. The New York Times, welcome to the Trump stagflation economy. The New York Times, Trump tastelessness opinion, the terrible touch of President Midas. The New York Times, Trump tariffs. Car companies are paying tariffs, so you do not have to. The New York Times, Trumpist lies about Social Security. The 6 Social Security myths that will not go away. The New York Times, Wisconsin, climate change. Heavy rains in Wisconsin lead to flooding and early closure of State Fair. The New York Times, record rainfall leads to widespread flash flooding and chaos in Milwaukee. All is lost. Canada opinion, acute sustained profound and abiding rage. Canada finds its voice. The New York Times, Europe, a sideline. Europe seeks a voice as Trump and Putin prepare to meet. The New York Times, Russia, the powerful aid of Putin. The New York Times, the Russian technocrat who helps enable Putin and manage the Ukraine war. The New York Times, the tycoons who profit from the thirst of India for Russian oil. The New York Times, Alaska, Trump and Putin may get a cold reception from some Alaskans. The New York Times, Dmitry Kozak was a key Putin aide. He lost power when he balked at the Ukraine war. The New York Times, China extortion U.S. government to take cut of NVIDIA and AMD AI chip sales to China. The New York Times, China automakers are taking a shortcut to European markets. The New York Times headlines. The New York Times, August 11, 2025. Artificial intelligence. Alexa got an AI brain transplant. How smart is it now? The New York Times, medicine and science opinion, losing vision and seeing a new world. The New York Times, New York City, Coney Island. Rozep view. The view from her window looks like the intro to Rozep videos from the article headline. New to New York, she found a Brooklyn 1-bedroom and took up surfing. The New York Times, RFK Jr. a place to sue because you were vaccinated. The Kennedy next target. The federal vaccine court. The New York Times, RFK Jr. opinion, vaccine misinformation is a symptom of a dangerous breakdown. The New York Times, RFK Jr. This Ohio farm community is a mecca for the Mahamon. The New York Times, Trump courts. The hidden trauma of jury duty. The New York Times, Trump tariffs are now forcing companies to make tough choices. The New York Times, Trump tariffs Extortion U.S. government to take cut of NVIDIA and AMD AI chip sales to China. The New York Times Trump tariffs opinion. The contradiction at the heart of the Trump trade deals. The New York Times Trump tariffs. Small businesses brace for the punishing side effects of the Trump tariffs. The New York Times Trump versus universities. The Harvard-trained lawyer behind the Trump fight against top universities. The New York Times. Spain economy opinion. Spain is going its own way. The New York Times. China, Europe. The China automakers are taking a shortcut to European markets. The New York Times. Headlines. The Guardian, August 10th, 2025. Democrats California redistricting. We are at war. Bring it on. Democrats ready to fight dirty to stop Trump. Democrats. The Guardian. Georgia Atlanta CDC gunman believe COVID vaccine made him suicidal. Official says Atlanta. The Guardian. Georgia CDC union says vaccine misinformation put staff at risk after Atlanta shooting. Atlanta. The Guardian. Redistricting Republican history. How did we get all this? Gerrymandering. A short history of the Republican redistricting scheme. House of Representatives. The Guardian. Texas redistricting fight with Democrats could last years. Threatens Greg Abbott. Texas. The Guardian. Trump courts. Pam Bondi fired him for prosecuting January 6th rioters. He would do it again. It is about justice. U.S. Capitol attack. The Guardian. Trump appointee the right to vote. Pete Hegseth repost video that says women should not be allowed to vote. Trump administration. The Guardian. Trump orders homeless he passed en route to golf course to leave Washington, D.C. Trump administration. The Guardian. Trump promises. Trump promised to be a dictator on day one. We are now past day 200. Donald Trump. The Guardian. Trump budget bill to take from the poor and middle class to fund tax breaks for the rich. The Trump sweeping bill looms large over Democrats and Republicans as they head for recess. U.S. politics. The Guardian. Canada. Quebec. Montreal. Democrat expatriate haven. A haven for English in the most French of North American cities. The New York Times. Russia Alaska confusion over the Alaska summit shows Vladimir Putin still calls the shots. Vladimir Putin. The Guardian. Headlines. Other media. August 10th, 2025. California, New York, Illinois. United States Democrats redistricting in California, possibly New York and Illinois. Enraged House Democrats prepare to go scorched earth on redistricting. Georgia Center for Disease Control CDC shooting bullets in the windows. Your local epidemiologist. Georgia Center for Disease Control CDC shooting live video with Caitlin Jetelina, Megan Ranney, and Kristen Pantagani. MD PhD now public health in the face of trauma and violence. Georgia Center for Disease Control CDC shooting Rosep View RFK Junior courting irrelevance in the face of threatening COVID-19 vaccine distribution in 2025. From the article headline. RFK Junior wants a wearable on every American. That future is not as healthy as he thinks. The Verge. Trump budget cuts to fund tax breaks for the rich fighting fire with cutbacks inside medicine. United Kingdom. Internet. Why U.S. politicians care about the British age verification law. 7 Google alerts. World heat pump market worth $162.56 billion by 2030. Markets and markets. Yahoo Finance. Heat pump is a more reliable way of heating and cooling on a large scale. The versatile nature of heat pumps could enable the transition to air pollution from PM 2.5. United States Medicare beneficiary data. Chronic effects of wildfire smoke and criteria. Air pollutants on cardiovascular hospitalization. Science Direct. Fine particulate matter. PM 2.5 is a major ambient air pollutant that poses a significant threat to human health. Although PM 2.5 concentration in the United States heat pump rebate. The big beautiful bill slashed home energy incentives, but you can still get thousands in the cool down heat pump. The state says it has had over 1,000 applicants for the rebate program so far, and that it expects that number to keep climbing. By Sam. United States heat pump carrier launches new heat pump for residential light commercial use. PV Magazine carrier, a U.S.-based heating solutions provider, has introduced a new heat pump system featuring a cooling seasonal energy efficiency rating. Facilities dive. The biggest misconception with OBBBA is that it is pulling the rug out from under heat pumps. David Rames, senior product manager at Heat Pump. Under OBBBA, the 2% base tax credit that was terminated for energy property projects was left alone for geothermal heat pumps, which have a 6% base. United States heat pump heat pumps can help clean up factories and save lives. Canary Media. Heat pumps. A gradual transition would not only decarbonize heating, but deliver a staggering $1.1 trillion in public health benefits and avoid 77 United States heat pump users offer honest opinions after renter considers appliance upgrade at My Bills. The cool down with climate change leading to more intense weather events and extreme temperatures. Many homeowners are considering installing heat pumps. United States heat pump homeowner shares real-world experience with a heat pump after record-breaking winter storm. The cool-down heat pumps have long been considered a southern heating option incapable of handling the more intense cold snaps in the north. Heat pump efficiency will continue to improve. The Inflation Reduction Act IRA home electrification and appliance rebate program provides point of United States heat pump. How the one big beautiful bill affects heat pump adoption. PV Magazine USA. The congressional budget bill made broad cuts to tax credits, including to energy efficiency investments like heat pumps. The OBBBA brought a new era to clean energy tax credits similar to the residential clean energy 25D tax credit. The OBBB snapped forward. The United States heat pump installing heat pumps in factories could save $1.5 trillion and 77,000 lives. Grist. Org. Industrial heat pumps work just like household units by manipulating the pressure of refrigerants. They extract warmth from outdoor air and use that. United States heat pump rebate. Last call for IRA tax credits. How Vacker contractors can maximize incentives before they expire. ACHR News. Heat pump systems. Dubois said these include federal tax credits and rebates that can be combined with state and local programs, making the United States heat pump rebate need a new AC this summer. Here is how to collect $8,000 in government incentives for in the cool down rebates on qualifying energy efficient systems. By opting for a heat pump, you will even get to save money on monthly utility bills for winter. United States heat pump rebate. Proud homeowner shares first energy bill after swapping to ultra efficient HVAC. The cool down one homeowner shared evidence of their savings with their new heat pump on the heat pumps subreddit. Rebate for 4 times that amount for United States heat pump rebate. 12 states and the District of Columbia. August 12, 2025. $8.8 billion energy efficiency rebate program on hold in most states, underway in some. Utility dive. Heat pumps and heat pump water heaters. Brief 12 states and the District of Columbia have launched rebate. United States wood smoke. Millions of Americans urged to avoid driving. Newsweek. Burning and use of residential wood burning devices reduce vehicle smoke. Webpage for actions you can take to protect your health against wildfire. United States stupidity. United States heat pump rebate. Homeowner Energy Freedom Act introduced to rescind Biden-era green initiatives. The mortgage point. Americans should have the freedom to choose how to cook their food and heat their homes. High-efficiency electric home rebate programs must provide. United States stupidity. Republicans blame Canada and demand action with smoke as Canada wildfires choke U.S. with smoke. Republicans demand action, but not on climate change with TV8. Arizona Glendale heat pump rebate. A guide to unlocking new rebates for AC energy purchases. KTR News. Your guide to 2 new Arizona rebate programs. $8,000 for a new high-efficiency heat pump for heating and cooling. $4,000 for an electric load. Arizona Glendale heat pump rebate. Councilman Preseder proposes heat pump ordinance with rebate program in Glendale Citizen Portal AI. This initiative aims to promote the adoption of heat pump technology, a more energy-efficient alternative to traditional air conditioning systems. The California Butte County wood burning breaking. White fire reported in Butte County on August 9. Sacramento B update. Ardent fire burns 26 acres in Lake County. Updated August 9, 2025, 5:53 p.m. Fires breaking wood fire reported in Sonoma County on August 9, 2025. California Los Angeles public data reveal extent of air quality impacts during 2025 Los Angeles wildfires. UREC alert. Particulate matter PM 2.5. The U.S. Environmental Protection Agency, EPA Air Now Fire and Smoke Map, and the Purple Air Low-Cost Sensor Network. California stupidity. Orange County wood burning fire pits. The Orange County burning summer tradition. Voice of OC. Some beaches allow wood fires, others require coal or clean burning alternatives. Many offer both. A sign reading the fire pit rules at Corona Del Mar. California Placer County wood burning breaking. Magra fire reported in Placer County on August 9. San Luis Obispo Tribune. Magra fire has been burning on private land. Breaking wood fire reported in Sonoma County on August 9, 2025. San Obispo County wood burning breaking. York fire reported in San Luis Obispo County on August 9. Fresno B. York fire has been burning on private land. California Sonoma County wood burning breaking wood fire reported in Sonoma County on August 9. Sacramento B. wood fire has been burning on private land. At this time, the containment status is unknown and the cause of the fire remains undetermined. Source Fresno B. Colorado wood burning. San Juan National Forest Stage 2 fire restrictions effective August 8. USDA Forest Service. Durango, Colorado, August 7, 2025. Based on recent wildfire activity and persistent severe fire, wood burning stoves and stoves of sheep herders. 36 CFR. Connecticut heat pump rebate. Now is a great time to take advantage of cost-saving clean energy tax credits and incentives. CT.gov. Tens of thousands of dollars in federal rebates and tax credits available to help residents realize savings from purchasing EVs. Heat pumps. Rooftop Florida heat pump rebates. Utility company offers customers nearly $4,000 in rebates for home upgrades. Newsbreak. They can receive rebates for home upgrades such as HVAC replacement, the installation of energy-efficient windows, and the purchase of heat pump water. Georgia Atlanta heat pump help and support. Remanufacturing company packaged heat pumps. Split air conditioners. Split heat pumps. Water heating. Heat pump water heaters. Iowa and Iowa City heat pump homeowner shares candid review after testing next-gen heat pump. During frigid winter, the cool down. Unlike traditional furnaces or AC units, a heat pump can run in both directions, removing heat from your home in the summer and pulling it in during. Iowa air quality. In what states is most impacted by Canadian wildfires? CMAP. The Des Moines registered 2.5 micrometers PM 2.5, and the smaller one poses a lot of health risks. PM 2.5 is so tiny that it can easily pass the usual defense of people. Kansas Joplin Ordinance and Wood Smoke Ordinance and wood burning. Lamar updates burning rules for fire pits. Yard waste. Local newscom newsnow.com. KOM key updates in the ordinance include wood burning fire pits must be made of non-combustible materials like cement, clay, brick, or sheet. Massachusetts heat pump break in winter rates aims to boost heat pump use. The Boston Globe. This is not a handout. It is about fairness. Heat pump users were overpaying for costs to maintain a summer peaking grid. Massachusetts PM 2.5 are continuous smoky days and mass harming us. Here is what experts say. MassLive.com. MassLive PM 2.5 exposure can cause a range of symptoms according to Endicott College critical and acute care professor Cindy Mitsaki's respiratory problems. Yahoo. Most studies on the short and long-term health impacts of PM 2.5 exposure have been focused on particles from vehicle and industrial emissions. Minnesota wood smoke. State fire marshal speaks to lengthy Lutsen Lodge investigation in forum. Smoke rises from charred wood with flags and Lake Superior in the background. Rubble is all that remains after a fire destroyed the Lutsen Lodge on Minnesota. MPCA issues new air quality alert for all of Minnesota. CBS News. Wood burning devices, not idle vehicles, and take fewer trips. More from CBS News. Wildfire smoke. Minnesota wood smoke. Local view. Progress on clean energy goes up in wildfire smoke. Duluth News Tribune. Would prescribe burning, pasturing forest land, and masticating trees. None of this is cheap. Estimates range from $100 to $1,000 per acre. Canada. North Carolina stupidity. Wood smoke. A taste of our state. Wood smoke. Our state magazine. Smoke by Sherry Castle. Campfire wood smoke gives our campsite favorites S. Amores hot dogs, baked beans not only flavor, but a lingering. North Carolina Chapel Hill modification of associations between ambient PM 2.5 and vital signs by beta blocker. Environmental health. Biomed Central. Abstract background. Fine particulate matter PM 2.5 is associated with cardiovascular morbidity, especially among individuals with pre-existing. Oregon heat pump rebate. State lawmakers unveil game-changing HVAC incentives. Here is how to snag up to the cool down. According to Oregon Public Broadcasting, the Oregon Department of Energy is offering $2,000 in rebates to people who install a heat pump on their Pennsylvania heat pump rebate. DEP $258 million federally funded program to provide rebates on appliances. Building PA. Environment Digest blog. The home electrification and appliance rebate will provide rebates. Heat pump for space heating or cooling. $8,000 electric stove. Pennsylvania Pittsburgh heat pump. Thinking about a heat pump? Some things to know about choosing what is best for you. AP News. Switching to a heat pump is often touted as a climate-friendly choice that can help your wallet. To heat pump. Thinking about a heat pump? Some things to know about choosing what is best for you. Pittsburgh Post-Gazette. Heat pumps. 101. The simplest way to understand a heat pump is that it uses electricity to gather heat from one place and move it to another. Heat. Thinking about a heat pump? Some things to know about choosing what is best for you. Star Tribune. Heat pumps are also cleaner than systems powered by natural gas options, even if the electricity used to power heat pumps is primarily generated from Texas heat pump rebate. Officials put nearly $700 million in a huge money pot for homeowners to make crucial upgrades. The cool down. Residents can use the rebates for Energy Star certified appliances such as heat pumps for space heating and cooling, as well as energy efficient. Wisconsin Waterford Ordinance and wood burning. 2 new ordinances amended at the Monday Waterford Representative Town meeting. The day the burning is allowed under the conditions of the ordinance with a valid permit. Wood construction, debris, trash, or leaves is not allowed. Wisconsin wood smoke on track to see record number of days plagued by wildfire smoke. WPAR. She added that wildfire smoke has been linked to lung cancer and wood burning has also been tied to breast cancer. Health experts at Stanford, Canada, and the Midwest and Northeast United States. Prolonged impact. Canadian wildfires prompt air quality warnings for Midwest and Northeast USA today. Particulate matter PM is one of the main components of the following is linked to exposure to the PM 2.5 according to Yale Medicine Canada. British Columbia heat pump rebate. Officials offer residents $5,000 rebate for critical home upgrade, a step in the right direction. The cool down for residents in British Columbia. Now may be the perfect time to buy high-performance electric heat pumps and cut down on their energy bill. Canada. British Columbia. Burnaby heat pump rebate. The 2B Plumbing and Heating launches limited-time rebates on heat pumps, furnaces. 24/7 press release. Newswire. For a limited time, customers can take advantage of the following rebates: $1,000 off new furnace installations, $2,000 off dual fuel heat pump systems. Canada. British Columbia. Greenwood heat pump. Energy matters. Are heat pumps losing their cool? Boundary Creek. Times you can also pair an electric heat pump with a high-efficiency gas furnace, also known as a dual fuel system, to help ensure energy-efficient comfort. Canada. British Columbia. Vancouver. Wood burning. Cleaner fires, cleaner air. How Metro Vancouver is leading the shift towards responsible. Richmond News. Wood burning. Residential wood burning is the source of more than 25% of fine particulate matter emissions across the region and poses particular. Canada. British Columbia. Vancouver. Wood burning deadline is approaching to register indoor wood burning devices in Metro Vancouver. The Vancouver Sun studies and monitoring have found that indoor residential wood burning is responsible for more than a quarter of the harmful fine particle. Canada. British Columbia. Vancouver. Wood smoke. Metro Vancouver residents asked to register fireplaces. Wood stoves by September 15, 2025. CDC. Wood burning. Metro Vancouver says that wood smoke from residential burning is the largest single source of fine particulate matter emissions. In Yahoo News UK. Wood burning. Metro Vancouver says that wood smoke from residential burning is the largest single source of fine particulate matter emissions. Canada. British Columbia. Vancouver. Wood smoke. Metro residents required to register wood burning stoves, fireplaces. Delta Optimist. Wood burning stoves and furnaces should be registered with Metro Vancouver, and that best burning practices should be followed. The city noted. Metro Vancouver is reminding homeowners who plan to burn wood in a fireplace, stove, or furnace in an urban area this fall to register their Canada. British Columbia. Vancouver. Wood smoke. Wood burning fireplaces must be registered by September 15th. Metro Vancouver. City News. Vancouver. The deadline to register your wood burning fireplace or stove is approaching on September 15th for Metro Vancouver. Canada. Manitoba. Wood smoke. Premier Kinyu slams the Republicans' timber tantrum over smoke. Wood Central Manitoba. Premier Wab Kinyu has slammed a group of Republicans for what he described as political grandstanding in response to wildfire smoke. Canada. Stupidity. Wood smoke. Canadian province faces pushback after banning entry to woods over wildfire fears. BBC. But how would you like to be stuck in the woods while there is a fire burning around you? He said the restrictions will be loosened once enough. Australia. Wood smoke, a burning issue. Why it is time to ditch the wood-fired heater and opt for eco-alternatives. The Guardian. Wood burning is one of the biggest sources of fine particulate pollution in Australia. Here are ways to reduce emissions and improve your health. Australia. E-Green Electrical is helping Sydney residents claim massive government rebates on the globe, and Mail. E-Green Electrical has rapidly become a leading provider in heat pump hot water installation by combining industry best products. Seamless service. Bar chart.com. This government-backed initiative enables eligible homeowners to replace outdated systems with modern high-efficiency heat pumps, often for a heat pump rebate. Australia. Victoria. Gippsland. East Gippsland. Burning wood for power is a dangerous step backward. Pearls and irritations. The paper provides a critical assessment of claims that burning woody biomass, including so-called waste wood, is an effective climate solution. United Kingdom heat pump. Cool Britannia. The heat pumps keeping pace with the UK wild weather. The Guardian. The air-to-air heat pump provides heating in the winter but acts like an air conditioner in the summer months. The heat pump has worked very well in United Kingdom. Heat pump efficient heating system to the test during winter cold spell. What did it cost me? The cool down. One UK homeowner tracked exactly what it cost to heat his home with a heat pump, and he came up with some stunning stats. United Kingdom wildfires. The Guardian. PM 2.5 mortality associated with fine particles from wildfires may be underestimated by 93%. Medical Express. Wildfire smoke contains pollutants that are hazardous to health, including fine particles PM 2.5, which have been linked to increased mortality in United Kingdom. Wood burning. New clean air strategy to crack down on wood burners. ISCP. The UK government has today published its clean air strategy outlining plans to crack down on the burning of wood and coal in homes as it aims to United Kingdom. Surrey. Wood burning scientists warn your eco-friendly wood stove may be releasing toxic pollutants. SciTech Daily. Wood burning stoves, including those built to modern eco-design standards. Their findings show that using these stoves can lead to short-term United Kingdom wood smoke. The Great Smog of London made the British act on air pollution. Experts say the case holds. ABC News. The Great Smog of London spurred William Wood to action after arriving in Tasmania. He was only 10 years old when smoke from coal burning cloaked the United Kingdom. Surrey. Wood smoke scientists warn your eco-friendly wood stove may be releasing toxic pollutants. SciTech Daily. Wood burning stoves, including those built to modern eco-design standards. Their findings show that using these stoves can lead to short-term Sweden heat pump startup Aera raises $174 million to decarbonize residential heating. Yesterday, today heat pumps are rapidly emerging as a key energy-efficient and climate-friendly alternative to furnaces and air conditioners producing fewer. Iraq-Baghdad simulation. The spatial and temporal patterns of PM 2.5 over Iraq-Baghdad. Using the WRFIOP science, the characteristics of fine particles were analyzed using a model with regular hourly observations of PM 2.5 for both January and June. Saudi Arabia Makkah PM 2.5 seasonal trends and source apportionment of water-soluble inorganic ions in PM 2.5 in ScienceDirect.com. Seasonal trends and source apportionment of water-soluble inorganic ions in PM 2.5 in Makkah. Saudi Arabia highlights abstract graphical abstract. China PM 2.5. Assessing passenger road transport policies for PM 2.5 related health impact and cost reduction. ScienceDirect.com PM 2.5 life cycle impact assessment health impacts economic benefits transport policy 1 introduction fine particulate matter PM 2.5 has China PM 2.5 estimating 1 kilometer PM 2.5 concentration in Beijing Tianjin Hebei region based on a lightweight ScienceDirect.com. The fine particulate matter PM 2.5 pollution has been of great concern. Obtaining full coverage PM 2.5 is still difficult since the limited number. China PM 2.5 the impact of different spatial sampling strategies on the spatial extrapolation prediction. ScienceDirect.com PM 2.5 monitoring station networks play a critical role in retrieving ground level PM 2.5 concentrations using satellite remote sensing technology. China PM 2.5 independent and combined relationships between nighttime light exposure air pollution. PMBMC Public Health Biomed Central Cox proportional hazards models were employed to evaluate the independent effects of NL air pollutants PM1 PM 2.5 NO2 etc. and NEVI on DHBS. China PM 2.5 maternal placental growth factor mediates the association between PM 2.5 and ScienceDirect.com. Among these fine particulate matter PM 2.5 defined as particles with an aerodynamic diameter of less than or equal to 2.5 micrometers recognized as one of the most. China PM 2.5 sensitivity analysis of WRF CMAQ model in predicting PM 2.5 and O3 concentration in ScienceDirect.com PM 2.5 levels has exceeded MOX and WHO limits while O3 remained within permissible levels during transboundary smoke event in PMY grid nudging. China stroke burden analysis attributable to ambient and household PM 2.5 in China from 1990. Nature driven by rapid urbanization and economic growth. PM 2.5 pollution has emerged as a pressing issue exacerbating the stroke burden especially in China. Temporal trend of cause specific mortality burden attributable to ambient PM 2.5 from ScienceDirect.com. The greenhouse gas air pollution interactions and synergies gains model was used to estimate PM 2.5 concentrations in Chinese provinces from 7. China heat pump operational optimization for electric heat pump clusters based on demand response. ScienceDirect.com to reduce the user dissatisfaction and thus improve overall user thermal comfort. A demand response strategy of electric heat pump clusters is China heat pump performance of a ground source heat pump with energy piles and borehole. ScienceDirect.com abstract ground source heat pump GSHP systems have garnered significant attention as sustainable solutions for building heating and cooling. This China wood smoke enhancing flame retardancy and smoke suppression of wood via in situ synthesis of amine. ScienceDirect.com wood was verified by series of methods for analysis. The resulting wood samples exhibited remarkable flame retardancy and smoke suppression. PM 2.5 and adverse health effects quantitative contribution of metals to OP and its prediction based on machine learning models. ScienceDirect.com abstract atmospheric fine particulate matter PM 2.5 has been acknowledged to exert adverse health effects through reactive oxygen species ROS. Cat's corner strategy with Tiger and Leone. Saying the quiet part out loud. Roar. Hi, I am Tiger. Our human asked us to get up from our naps and start Cat's corner strategy with Tiger and Leone. She gave us a list of internet allies which we will post for her here.
Hi, I am Leone. It is better for your mental fitness to go to these websites than to go to bro sites for advice. Substack letters from an American Heather Cox Richardson. Substack your local epidemiologist. The Midas Touch. The Guardian. The New York Times.
One introduction. Rosette view. The United States government was on track in the Biden administration to reduce the prices for both clean energy heat pumps and clean energy electric cars. Trump tariffs are expected to upset those plans to prevent future air pollution and prevent climate change. The United States government should, instead of certifying wood stoves as safe when they are not safe, go forward with regulations that ban wood stove use and direct government money for use of forest refuse only for home building and furniture building. For just a few examples of use of forest products for non-burning uses, it is well known from scientific and medical research that wood burning is a substantial source of PM 2.5 emissions, yet the wood burning industry uses the scientifically debunked theory named carbon neutrality of wood burning to argue that wood burning replacing coal burning in industry, and in a trickle-down argument that wood burning should continue for home heating should continue. Presumably because it is called renewable, wood may be renewable in the sense that a tree can be planted in the place of a cut-down burned tree, but it takes centuries or decades for the newly planted tree to attain the stature of the cut-down burned tree. During those centuries or decades, photosynthesis, which converts CO2 to oxygen, and so sequesters some carbon, will not take place at the same rate as photosynthesis was performed previously, and wood burning emits both CO2 and PM 2.5, and PM 2.5 is not absorbed by trees, so PM 2.5 is not diminished by planting a tree in the place of a cut-down and burned tree. In fact, a living tree closes its pores against the presence of PM 2.5 from nearby wood burning, just as humans hold their breath in the presence of PM 2.5 from nearby wood burning. And when a tree closes its pores, the level of photosynthesis that absorbs CO2 pollution goes down. Wood burning emits 90% PM2.5 particulate matter of 2.5 micrometer size, the perfect size to infiltrate the human lung, setting off a cascade of human health problems and early deaths. Contrary to many beliefs, wood burning emits 2.8 times the PM2.5 as the fossil fuel coal burning, and wood burning emits 450 times the PM2.5 as the fossil fuel natural gas burning. Replacing coal burning with wood burning creates more air pollution in the form of CO2 and PM2.5 than coal burning. This emission data comes from testing the cleanest burning wood stove in the United Kingdom, the Eco-Design Wood Stove. An international convention does not count the emissions from wood burning. The emissions from wood burning are erased from all countries around the world when calculating if each country has met its climate goals. This non-counting or erasure of wood burning emissions data from climate goals does not mean wood burning emissions do not exist. Rosette View purple air PM2.5 monitors hanging from the eaves of the house of a near neighbor should be used to measure the level of PM2.5 in the air hyperlocally in the yards of near neighbors of indoor residential wood burners. If PM2.5 levels exceed World Health Organization standards of 5 micrograms per cubic meter annually, then that evidence of air pollution from wood burning should lead to the shutdown of that indoor residential wood burning appliance, one appliance at a time if necessary.